I love murder. I think murder is cool. Not really, though. I don't actually love murder. To be completely honest, I think murder is kinda terrifying. But you know what's also terrifying? The Terrifier movies! That's right, today we're going to be covering the Terrifier trilogy. Now, the Terrifier movies are pretty controversial because of their extreme over the top gore. The most common criticism with Terrifier is that it's all senseless violence, nothing more than cheap shock value for the sake of cheap shock value. So let's take a closer look at this series. Is it just blood spatter nonsense with no real theme tying it all together, or is there a deeper lore behind all the clown paint and costumes? The answer may shock you. Before we go on ahead, just a little content warning. This is a Terrifier video, so duh. But like, there's gonna be some mentions of suicide and a lot of, blood and gore and talks of stuff like that. So yeah. So as of now, there are only 3 installments in the Terrifier series, and I believe there might be a fourth one on the way. So obviously, we're just going to be covering the first 3. Now, technically, Art the Clown first appeared in All Hallows Eve, which was a collection of small shorts like Ninth Circle and the original Terrifier. And the third All Hallows Eve movie has some of the most disgusting AI posters I've ever seen. But we're not going to be talking about any of those at all. We're just going to talk about the 3 Terrifier movies as a self-contained story. So starting with Terrifier 1, it's bad. You know, they say that Terrifier, it's a niche thing. If you're not into splatter movies, you're not really gonna get it. But like honestly, I think even if you do like splatter movies, you might not really care for Terrifier. It's kind of boring. They're in this run down building the whole time, and it's just one building. And like, yeah, I get it's a budgetary thing. This is the first movie, but there could have been a really cool claustrophobic feel to the whole area. But like, I don't know, it just doesn't really go there. Something else Terrifier does that's like a big pet peeve of mine. Like, this is a real personal issue for me, right? So the main character, what was her name? Degenerate goth girl, right? You spend the first half of the movie following her, and then she dies, and then someone else like becomes the main focus. And yeah, I guess it could be seen as like a subversion of expectations or whatever, but I feel like her death was just really kind of anticlimactic. And then only that, whenever her sister, Victoria, actually remember her name, whenever she shows up, she doesn't have the same level of build up. I'm not as invested in seeing her escape. And I guess an issue I have with this movie in general is that all the characters don't really feel like people, they just feel more like bags of lard. Everyone knows like the common criticism with horror movies where it's like, oh, why don't they just hit the killer while they're down? And in something like Scream, maybe that happens like once or twice or something. In Terrifier, there are like freaking 8 times multiple people have a clear shot at him and they don't take it. He's right there, just fuck him up! Oh, look, a dumb slutty blonde. I wonder what will happen. Oh, and speaking of the dumb blonde, so the vagina slice. Come on, weak sauce, you can do better than that. Well, there are 2 kills I really liked. I think I'd call them the standout kills in the movie, so I am going to spoil these. But, I mean, duh. So, one happens, like, at the beginning, and one happens closer to the end. One is, like, a guy's head is, like, cut off and, like, made into a candle, which is pretty creative. And then the other one is, like, this lady gets completely, like, skinned, and then Art, like, wears her skin like a disguise. That second one is the type of thing you always like hear, like, I'm gonna rip your skin off and wear it. You always hear people threatening, saying they'll do that, but you never actually see it. And then this time, like, you actually see it. But what are some things that I liked about Terrifier 1? Well, I think first and foremost, that would be Art the Clown himself, or more specifically, his actor, David Howard Thornton. Now, from my research, apparently art was actually based on Pennywise. But that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me because here's the thing: Art the Clown is not a clown, he's a mime. I've always associated Art the Clown's look with Marcel Marceau, not just because they look so similar, but because they even act kind of the same way. Art is a silent film type character. The way he moves and all his facial expressions, sometimes the camera, it's not just in the first one, in all the movies, the camera like cut away from him and then cut back and he'd be like in a different position or making a different face or something. And he makes no audible noises with his mouth. He doesn't even like scream or breathe or anything. He's completely silent. And he's actually funny. Like he's unironically hilarious throughout all these movies. I think David Howard Thornton again does a very good job. He gives a kind of childlike glee to all of his murderous rampages. The original short had this kind of like very unique look and feel to it. Like a lot of people have described it as grindhouse. Like I guess I'd describe it as like a kind of almost low budget, like grimy. I don't know what does grindhouse mean again? Isn't that like a Quentin Tarantino thing? I don't know. It looks cool, and I think the official movie should have done it more. Keyword being more, not that the original movie like doesn't do it at all or anything. So in conclusion, I think Art the Clown is funny. Killing the main protagonist could have maybe worked, but doesn't really. And then most of the characters are just kind of annoying and stupid. So, is it the most awful? Is it like awful? No, but I will say it is bad. It's way longer than it needs to be, and it's not even that long. But I think if you like this type of movie, then you'd probably get a pretty good kick out of it for yourself. Oh yeah, and in the restaurant scene, they're all like, "Oh, he's gonna whip his cock out," but he literally can't. Like, look at that outfit. It's like a onesie. It's only got one piece. It's not segmented into shirt and pants or just a zipper on the back. So he literally can't whip his cock out. Like that's physically impossible for him to do with that sort of outfit on. Oh my god, get your cock science right. Moving on to Terrifier 2. It is truly miraculous how viewing one film can greatly impact the viewing of another. You see, Terrifier 1 was so bad, so god awful, that my expectations had gone through the floor. And Terrifier 2 is actually a pretty decent film, but because I was expecting it to just be more schlocky garbage, I ended up being blown away. It's like I was viewing Michelangelo at work. Terrifier 2 weaves the tale of Sienna Shaw. It takes place a few days before Halloween, and she's working on an angel costume for a Halloween party. The angel she's dressing up as is actually a character from this comic that her dad made because he was a comic artist. And I believe what happened to the dad is that he killed himself, I think. I think something like made him really paranoid and he was worried something was going to happen and he ended up taking his own life. That's what I'm pretty sure happened. So the other remaining members of the family are Sienna's mom, Barb, and of course, who could forget everyone's favorite, Jonathan Gaming. Jonathan, I'll be honest with you, he's kind of annoying. He's kind of whiny, but he does get like less annoying a little bit as it goes on. And by now, you're just dying to know, where is the star of the show, Art the Clown? At the end of the first movie, Art dies and then gets resurrected by Satan magic or something. And so in this one, he's like walking around, I guess technically a zombie. And there's some more magic elements added, which, to be honest, I don't entirely love. I kind of like Art more just as a crazy guy, no magic needed. But don't get me wrong, he is very much still a crazy guy. It's not like he took a broomstick and stuck it between his legs and like flying around on that or anything like that. And we're also introduced to, oh my god, what is that? Uh, what should we call you? How about Little Art Jr.? Art Jr. is genuinely one of the creepiest things in this entire franchise. I especially like the scene where she's introduced. The way everything plays out is very mysterious, although there is a part where she, like, pisses all over the floor, which kind of killed it for me because like why that wasn't necessary. We didn't have to see that part. And Art Jr. isn't really explained. Like it said that she's a previous victim that Art had killed, or maybe a demon possessing the previous victim, but it can't be a possession because she's also like Art's hallucination. I don't know. That I think is something that doesn't really need to be explained. It's fine to be left ambiguous. But something that I think should have been explained was Sienna's dad. Like, he has these, like, weird visions and premonitions of the future. Like, he had foretold that Sienna was destined to become this angel warrior or something, and he saw visions of Art the Clown from the future, maybe, and it's not explained, nor is it explained in the third one. I'm guessing it will be in the fourth and final one. Terrifier 2 flirts with this theme that, like, the public or people in society often, like, fetishize serial killers. Exhibit A, the Clown Cafe, which definitely does not resemble any real world corporation or trademark. Even though it's a dream sequence, everyone in the Clown Cafe is shown stuffing down all sorts of junk food and even human body parts, all while homeless people on the street starve. And this definitely feels like it's alluding to some greater societal theme. Also, I cannot get that freaking jingle out of my head. Also, Jonathan is obsessed with Art the Clown and wants to dress up as him for Halloween, but that's less like him and more because he found a bunch of notes from his dad about Art the Clown. And we hear that some people are going to be dressing up as Art for Halloween, but we never actually see it. And finally, we have Sienna. Now, Sienna was surprisingly really interesting. Sienna has this dilemma where she isn't sure how she should feel about her father. She still loves him and wants to believe that he was a good man, but his visions of the future kind of drove him insane, and he became abusive in the last few years of his life. And the scene where she finally dons the completed angel outfit, it has all these like 80s Stranger Things sounding synthwave music, and I was sitting there and I was like, oh my god, why is this so hype? I I didn't know Terrifier 2 was gonna be this hype. Oh my god. Oh yeah, and she also has like a flaming magic angel sword that can kill anything except for her. It's never really explained. The climax of the movie takes place in a funhouse called the Terrifier. Terrifier only appears in the second movie, not the first or third. Art the Clown is not called Terrifier, that's a big misconception. There is no Static Shock, there is no Doctor Who, and there is no New Norm. I really enjoy the final battle, but it does kind of drag on. Like, I think at one point I paused it expecting there to be only like 10 minutes left, and there were like 30. At one point, Sienna gets stabbed in the stomach and then like dragged to hell and then put in this big glass box full of water and then she's like starts drowning. And I was like, actually, like, oh my god, is she really gonna die? Is this actually how it's gonna end? But no, that's not how it ends. Now I'm not gonna say how it ends because you should absolutely give this movie a watch. Terrifier 2 is a surprisingly really good movie. The kills are bloodier, art is funnier, and the characters aren't completely brain dead this time. Now, is Terrifier 2 a perfect movie or anything like that? No, not really. There's still a lot of unanswered questions and still a dumb blonde, but I still really enjoyed it. And now moving on to the third and so far most recent installment, Terrifier 3. This time it's personal. And Terrifier 3 is a bit different, because you see, Terrifier 3, it's a holiday movie. Sienna is still grappling with the trauma she faced in the second movie, and currently she's moved to her auntie and uncle in Bel Air. She also has a cousin named Gabby, and if Jonathan was like mildly annoying, then Gabby's really annoying. And Jonathan has gone off to college, and he's just trying to forget that the whole incident ever happened. At the start of the movie, Art is walking around as like a headless body, which I thought was just kind of ridiculous. And then Victoria, from way back in the first movie, she gave birth to his head, which I don't know why it's his head and not just like a baby version of him or something. That would at least make sense. But now Victoria's been inhabited by I'm guessing Art Jr. I don't know, but the two of them are together now. They're BFFs, best friends forever. A large portion of the movie is spent with Sienna being haunted by her memories of the past. Like, yeah, she survived, but you can't exactly be dragged to hell by a demon clown and then just walk it off. Remember how I kept saying Terrifier 2 almost had commentary about true crime, but then it kind of went nowhere? Well, Terrifier 3 brings that back, but this time it's a lot more fleshed out. Like the Terrifiers before, we get yet another dumb blonde, but this time, right, it's a bit different. She's a true crime podcast host. She is constantly hounding both Sienna and Jonathan, trying to get gory details from their perilous plight against the preposterous Pagliacci. Every scene with Mia is so cringy, but cringy in the best way possible. And she's not entirely one dimensional, as at one point she is defending Sienna against allegations that she did the murder and not Art. So Art's had this character arc since the first movie that he's been trying to fulfill, and here in the third one he finally does. He gets to live out his lifelong dream of being a domestic terrorist. And on an unrelated note, there is some child murder in this movie, and you don't really see a whole lot of it. It's I don't want to say it's done tastefully because that just sounds it sounds kind of wrong, but it doesn't really revel in it the same way it does the other kills. This man Art, he took it too far. In the third movie, he crosses a line, and I refuse to stand by it. He killed a rat. Come on, I want to see. No, Ratwurst, stay back. You can't look at such inappropriate material. It'll scar your innocent virgin eyes for life. And then it's revealed that Art the Clown is like a portal into hell, like his depravity is enough for like a demon to live through him, and he's so evil and despicable and devious, even quite sinister perhaps, that the universe literally created Sienna to be his opposite, to balance things out, to be this force of good that can vanquish all evil. Whatever the hell all that means. Oh, and they still haven't explained how the dad can see the future yet. If you're not gonna explain it, can you at least address that, he can do that, but no one knows why? But my greatest praise for Terrifier 3 is that it has perfected gore. And no, I'm not just saying that because of the chainsaw dick scene. So I'm going to spoil two big scenes of the movie, one at the beginning and one at the end, so, a little warning there. So the first one is at the beginning, where we see a family a few days before Christmas, and the daughter isn't able to sleep because she thinks someone's on the roof. So the mom goes and gives away precious North Pole intelligence to kind of calm down the daughter and keep her sleeping. Obviously, it's not Santa, it's not Krampus, it's Art. And this scene is it's not the greatest dialogue ever. It's not super revolutionary, but it still does a good job of kind of tricking you into a false sense of security, being somewhat invested in the family. So whenever they all, inevitably become murderized, it's actually pretty upsetting. And then the second kill, I'm not even gonna try to look for images of this because there's definitely no way I can show any of that. But it happens at the end, so this big, big spoiler, last warning, last call. The final confrontation, Art and Vicky kidnap the entire family, and Sienna and the aunt are all tied up. And basically Vicky's like, hey, you wanna see what happened to your daughter Gabby? Let me show you. Unwrap your Christmas present and you'll know. And then inside the Christmas present is a rotting skull in a cage. So then they take a big PVC pipe and shove it down the aunt's mouth, and then shove a bunch of rats into her throat, and then kill her. And then after that, they reveal that Gabby is still alive, and the skull wasn't actually Gabby's; it belonged to Jonathan. So they got the mom to witness the daughter dying, and they got the daughter to witness the mom dying. Like, goddamn. And that's I guess what I like about it is that the the scary part isn't the gore. It's more so the characterization, the function that the gore kind of serves. Making the characters in a horror movie likable is very important because that's how you make killing them actually upsetting. But here it's like it's not just that they're being killed, they're being like full on tortured in these grotesque, inhumane ways. Like Jonathan has like an unceremonious death, like he dies off screen. And that's what makes it feel so much more like scary is that like any main character can just die off screen. Sienna gets back her magic all powerful sword and then kills Vicky with it, and then a giant portal to hell opens up, and then Gabby gets like pulled in, and then Sienna drops the sword, the big powerful sword, and then Art just like escapes on a bus. Man, I thought Terrifier 2's ending was anticlimactic. And that caps off Terrifier 3, a really satisfying watch. Seriously, I feel like all the best qualities of these movies improve more and more as they go on. And yeah, that's the Terrifier canon. There is going to be a fourth one pretty soon, and I ain't covering it. I already did. No, I'm not going to cover it again. Why would I do that? But, going into this, I really thought that Terrifiers 2 and 3 were going to just be more of Terrifier 1. So, I guess there is something of a lesson to be learned here. Don't judge a book by its cover, but that's kind of cliche. But I think the actual lesson to be learned here is greatness doesn't come instantly. As terrible and mediocre as the original is, the amazing stories from 2 and 3 wouldn't exist without it. Not every non masterpiece should just be discarded and thrown away. Sometimes all it takes is just a little guidance for things to properly grow and flourish. I guess what I'm really trying to say here is sometimes if you really want the badass winged angel warrior, you gotta sit through an hour and a half of dumb blondes. That's all I'm really trying to say. Art. More like fart.